The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
And welcome to it, Hail Varsity Radio Road Show, as we're here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino, just outside the Ameris Sportsbook. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, you are invited out. We invite you to cross the river, find your way to Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino. I have some pen play sheets in front of me. We are going to put the Hail Varsity Radio parlay to the test. We want your input, your feedback, your thoughts. It is Nebraska-Purdue Eve. What happens in West Lafayette tomorrow? Kickoff at 11 Central. Numbers to get in, 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Can email Chris at hailvarsity.com, and you're invited to say what's up on the stream. Always like and subscribe. Can watch the show as well as hear it. Hail Varsity YouTube channel, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Elijah's decked out in his Denver gear. He's looking for back-to-back W's for them fighting donkeys. And Elijah, you know, you'll be back here next time we're here at Ameristar in front of Nebraska, Indiana. That second week of October. We're back here for Road Fridays here at Ameristar outside of Ameris Sportsbook. So we invite you out here 4 to 6. And Elijah, I'm staring at plenty of action going on. The digital screen to my right has scrolling odds, games to pick. How are we feeling this Friday, man? Good to be with you.
Good. Do they have a line out for odds for Micah Mazzccua to play another game as a Husker?
I have not gone and done that prop yet. We will get to some Micah Mazzccua thoughts as we heard a little bit of information yesterday, shared that information yesterday. And what we do know, and our old buddy Steve Merrick with Rivals, I think posted this morning, when he was getting ready to get to Chicago, old Mazzccua was headed to San Francisco. So we'll dive into Micah Mazzccua, short-term, long-term, that topic. The Board of Regents saying cheers as things are moving the right way for Beer football and volleyball for 2025. A few more thoughts on Nebraska-Purdue. Joining the show here in about 15 minutes, Brian Christopherson with Husker 24/7 Sports. In hour 2, the pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman, the professor, going to join us. And then Clausborne is imaginary and wears red for the Friday forecast. What a better place to be. I can't name one than to be here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino to make it happen. A couple of things with Ameristar I want to tell you about. One, once we hit the month of October, their buffet is going to go Bama on people. What I mean by that is they've got the prime rib and shrimp Fridays. They've got the crab legs, and then they've got the brunch buffet, all your favorites on Sundays. Once you get into the month of October, we're outside Ameris Sports, and it's just incredible. As I look to my right, they have the mother of all digital TV walls, a giant basement wall that's just a screen. They've got over 50 HD TVs. They've got wings. They've got fajitas. They've got cold beer. They have shots. I think the last time we were here, it was Nebraska getting ready for the NCAA tournament for basketball. Rumplemints were served to us. So if you're into Rumplemints, they have that. But Ameris Sports is an awesome spot to catch the game. And while you're here, get hooked up with your friends at Penn Play and get that Penn Play card. Elijah, we have some thinking to do with this Hail Varsity Radio parlay. What I like, Friday night is Rutgers. Rutgers is in Lincoln next Saturday as the Fighting Tony Sopranos make their way to the Midwest. They take Washington on tonight. I love me some Bama tomorrow. I like Kentucky against your Fighting Ole Miss Rebels. And I think Auburn is going to jackhammer a very, very hurt, very, very desperate Oklahoma squad. And then we'll dive into Purdue, Nebraska. That line is still 10.
Well, you know, how I think we do this, because we will lock in a Hail Varsity Radio parlay of the day. That much is guaranteed. You can follow it.
Is it going to be like Uncut Gems where we have 37 parts to this thing?
Well, this is what I was laying out here. I think how we do this, you get your one pick, your lock of the college football weekend. I get my one pick, my lock of the college football weekend. If Bill or Brian has one, we can get one from them as well. Should they have one? If they don't, all good. Because then I think we also get one lock of the day from the stream chat.
Sure.
So we're going to ask those watching along on YouTube and on Twitter, what is your college football lock of the weekend? If we can reach a consensus there, it will be added to the Hail Varsity Radio parlay. So we're looking at 3 to 4 legs. I think that's all we want.
The lock of the weekend is if Nebraska loses to Purdue, the entire state will turn to alcoholism. That's the lock of the weekend. I can't give you the 10. I can't give you the 9.5. They lose to Purdue and start out Big Ten play 0-2, limp into Rutgers at 3-2 before they go get to Indiana before Ohio State. Listen, man, Matt Rule's teams after a loss tend to respond pretty well. They finish the season strong. Let us dive into the guy that could block like an elephant, Micah Mazzccua, the elephant in the room, as, again, Steve Marek with Rivals was reporting. Jay says Okie State money line, they're -5. You know, K-State didn't lose 2 in a row very often. Kleiman doesn't lose 2 in a row very often, but I think Okie State's pretty good. We'll get into that ball game as well, part of the forecast later at 5:40 with Clausborne. But in all seriousness, short-term, Elijah, let's talk Micah Mazzccua. His availability doesn't seem to be a real thing for tomorrow. Is it a real thing moving forward? We don't know. There's been no official statement from Matt Rule. There's been no official statement about his availability. What we do know is that Micah Mazzccua was working his way through some things, as Matt Rule put it. It sounded like there had been some progress made with Micah Mazzccua working his way through things to the point where he got on the field last week in special teams. Was Micah Mazzccua working at left tackle as early as yesterday during practice? Possibly. Was he working at that guard spot, him and Henry? Possibly. And then, poof, what happened? He's on a flight elsewhere, per Steve Marek's posting. That's not good. That's not good. I'll say this, if the end is a reality for Nebraska and their best offensive line performer on field, I applaud Nebraska and Matt Rule because, let's be honest, dude, with what you need this run game to become and what it looked like the first 2 weeks with him, the easy call is to put up with his BS, another alleged BS, and another 8 weeks, right, and just play him. Just play him. But no, that's not been the case. There's standards you preach. You better practice what you preach if you're a head coach, if you're a position coach. And I applaud Nebraska if they, in fact, have moved on because this guy wasn't doing what he was supposed to do.
Yeah, and
it's too easy to just say, screw it, get us to relevancy in November, go kill people on Saturday, we'll deal with the fallout Monday through Thursday. It's not how Nebraska rolls. I applaud him.
Yeah, and what Nebraska is losing in Micah Mazzccua, because I am under the impression that you don't hop on a flight to the West Coast. I don't know if San Francisco is the end destination, but I trust Steve Marek.
Is there a connecting flight from Frisco to Oregon?
I don't know.
Just asking.
Well, you can't transfer mid-season, so that would be strange. I don't quite understand what's going on in the situation, but what I do know is if a guy is on a football team still, you're not taking a vacation on a game weekend, regardless of if you're on the travel roster or not. You don't do that.
And it looked like he was on the travel roster based on the two deep when Monday's presser and release happened, correct?
Yeah, and where we're at right now, and this is what I heard yesterday, is I know it was called a coaching decision against UNI. Let's call that what it is. It was a suspension. Mm-hmm. And the suspension has been reenacted. I do not know if it is a permanent suspension, if you get what I'm saying, or what the time frame is here with the suspension. But that was what I heard yesterday, is he was suspended yet again. And now you hear that he's on a flight out of this state on a Friday morning on a game weekend, which does not bode well for his future. And we don't want to speak on what happened because you and I have both heard things, Schmitty. Mm-hmm. We don't have explicit confirmation of what happened, but you and I both have heard the same things, which I would define as off-the-field anger management being the issue. A guy with a short temper that gets himself into trouble because of it.
And it's probably pissed about not playing right now because, let's be honest, he's a draft pick.
Yes, he's an all Big Ten guy, an all Big Ten offensive lineman.
He's a first-team draft pick, on-field performance. He's a guy that killed it at Florida, but there's also footage of trying to take on all of Neyland Stadium. There's time at Baylor. This is program number 3 that's still excessive even in the portal era. And this is a guy that Rule's known for years and said, all right, dude, let's rock and roll, but there's not going to be any babying. There's not going to be any hand-holding. There's not going to be any special treatment. You can't, as a program, take steps back with this culture that is going to hold you together through some roller coaster moments in year 2, and it needs to be concrete. It needs to be rock for year 3, year 4, and beyond. And the other part of this, too, with Mazzccua is, what do his teammates say and want? If it's a suspension, if it's a coach's decision, that Unity Council's got to vote to have him back. And I would say you've all worked through things. We've heard a little bit more from Tommy Hill's maturity, right? His path, where guys are saying, look, we love you, but you better start doing X, Y, and Z if you want to be here. Otherwise, it's going to be the Giffords of the world that tell you to get gone. I think this is probably Nebraska's headsets saying, okay, you didn't do X, Y, and Z, so you're not taking the trip with us to Purdue. I don't know if it's larger than that. I don't know if this was the foul tip caught by the catcher, so to speak, if this was it, or if this was if this was Mazzccca's decision to just move on. But this was late in the week when this came down.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yes.
Yesterday.
And I don't know if it was post-practice, because you had a direct question around noon to Matt Rule about, is Mazzccua working his way at left tackle? Is he at right guard? And it didn't sound like he wasn't going to be available yesterday.
Yeah, and now we know not going to be a guy who's going to be available. And I'll just say, to have a quick turnaround like that and to go from being a guy who is going to be in West Lafayette to a guy that's taking, again, as we were saying, a flight to the West Coast, that does not bode well for a guy's future within a football team. So I am fully prepared as it stands right now to not see Micah Mazzccua in a Husker uniform the rest of the season, because the message that sends to the coaching staff and to the teammates is, oh, well, I'm not playing. I'm going to kick my feet up. I'm off to the West Coast. You guys enjoy it. I'm not a part of this team anymore. That's kind of the vibe it gives off. So with that in mind, I'm not expecting to see Mazzccua on the field again. I could be wrong on that. They don't have any inside information. That's just how you read it from the outside. That's not the message you send to your teammates and to the coaching staff if you do get suspended. You don't kick your feet up and say, you know what, not my team anymore. So I don't think it bodes well for Micah Mazzccua coming back. Maybe I'm wrong there, but if he is out for the season, it's a huge, huge, huge loss for this Husker offense. I'd call him probably the second most important member of this Husker offense.
Yeah,
and I know that's
easily
weird to say for an offensive guard. It's not even the most important position on the offensive line, but the way he performs and the way Nebraska ran behind him through the first 2 games of the season, it feels like their rushing attack is really predicated upon how well he plays. And if he's not going to be a guy that's out there,
it's a mentality. It's a mentality with Mazzccua. It's a thing that's very real, where he's one of the dudes, Elijah, that you can have a screw loose for a few hours on Saturday, and he's going to go maul you. And you saw how well that right side of the line got pushed. You saw it against Colorado. He's an attitude and a talent combination. You want on the road, you want him at home with you when it comes to Nebraska being better, successful, trustworthy at running the football. His attitude's infectious for the rest of the guys that may not be a little psycho or vocal.
And it's an attitude that you need to have on your offensive line, but as an offensive lineman, it's also an attitude and mentality that you have to shut off whenever you're not between those white lines. And that seems to be the issue here. Is it's a guy that has a little bit of nasty, a little bit of crazy on the football field, got an edge to him, and isn't turning that edge off whenever you're not in between the white lines.
Let's get some starting five shout-outs. We're here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino, posted up just outside Ameris Sportsbook and Bar. We invite you out here. We're here till 6. And get in for your NFL and college football weekend. Mr. Jeff Snitley, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty, got in first. Brian is second. Arlo is here. Cliff, don't blow away, brother. No damage. Good for you, Cliff. Cliff down in Florida. Good to have him. Jeff is here. Brennan from the Black Hills checks in. And the Sexy Grinch crew makes his way in. We'll have some more shout-outs. Brian Christopherson with us. It's Hail Varsity on the road.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
All right, somebody just sent me a wrong picture of what was Michael Jordan holding and hugging his father during the NBA's first championship for the Bulls.
I think it was the trophy.
In 91.
Was it the trophy or was it his dad?
It was his trophy. His dad was behind with his arms around him. Yep. Thank you. It was a trophy, but somebody has switched out the trophy for Johnson & Johnson products, and they have changed the face of MJ to a former rapper. So there we have it. We are gearing up for Purdue and Nebraska. We are talking about offensive line personnel that are maybe on the West Coast. We welcome in an expert on Husker football and road trips, Brian Christopherson with us, Husker 24/7 Sports. BC, what great state are you in, my friend?
We're in Illinois, the land of Lincoln, sucking down some Werther's Originals, which are not an old man treat. They can be for a person of any age.
I don't know about that.
I love it. When I got done mowing the yard for a neighbor gal in South Lincoln my whole life, there was always a crisp $5 bill that did not go up with the price of inflation in my mowing career, and a handful of Werthers I got to grab. So that brings back some memories and a smile, BC. Who are you roadieing with?
Bruns. Bruns is next to me. And yeah, that sounds about right.
Say hi to Brunson.
Yeah, I will say hi. That sounds about right, though. $5 for mowing for an older guy back when we were growing up, and some Werthers. That seems like the bill.
It was, and it was a bag deal. It wasn't a mulch deal, so still a little scarred on that. What is your takeaway here on Nebraska's offensive line, BC, with what they're going to go with tomorrow? And I'm interested here if you've got any insight on or thoughts on Mazzcccua's availability.
Yeah, I don't think Mazzccua is going to be there. It's going to be a big. I mean, that's
good tone.
It's a big game for Gunnar. Obviously, Gunnar Gatula at left tackle. I thought he did pretty well for his first jump into the pool last week, but a Big Ten defense is going to want to test him and see what he's made of and throw some variations at him. So we'll see how he responds. I think the O-line as a whole has to step it up a notch, though. You've got to get that run game going, and I think you have to have some consistency with it too early on, even if it isn't necessarily just grinding out big plays. I think you want to stick with it and see if you can wear on Purdue and have some body blows and eventually a few of those busts. So I think there is going to be some patience required, but I do think it is important to give that as an assist to Dylan Ryla, so it's just not always on his arm having to convert a 3rd down and 6.
It's Brian Christopherson with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. And Brian, as we discuss the offensive line, pretend we're in school here, a A to F grade of the offensive line thus far. What would you give them? And as a follow-up to that, what do they need to be as we get into Big Ten play?
I'd give them like a C+. They've done some stuff that's been good with pass pro. I know the overtime against Illinois is fresh in everyone's mind, so maybe that weighs down the grading a little bit. We can't act like this offense, for the most part, hasn't moved the ball pretty efficiently. They have a lot of the time. You would just like to see a little bit more weight with the run game where you feel like they can get some more explosive plays there, and that's probably the one missing part. But there's been some good things in there. I was just telling Bruns, it's actually the defensive line and some parts on the other side of the ball where my opinion has shifted, in the last week or two, and they've got to prove themselves. So I think really when you talk about the trenches, you can talk about both sides of the ball needing to step up tomorrow and kind of reestablish, hey, this is who we are and what we're about. And, maybe sweep aside some doubts that are forming at least a little bit with people about those groups.
Brian Christopherson's with us, Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow. We're live here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino outside the Ameris Sportsbook. BC and Brunsey are road tripping on their way to West Lafayette, Nebraska-Purdue coverage. You look, BC, at the O-line part of things and the balance you need moving forward. Let's talk defense for a second with Nebraska. What are you comfortable / confident in tomorrow with the Black Shirts? We know what Purdue wants to do. We know what they do well.
That's a good question because I'm not, initially you would say before the season began, well, they'll take away the run. That was sort of your go-to. That was the stock answer. And so now, after the last couple of weeks and the yards after contact, you're not ready to just jump on that answer. You want them to prove that they can keep a back like Maccabee in check. Devin Maccabee, I know it was a different era, but he's going to feel some good vibes when he sees that Husker Road uniform on the other side. He had 206 yards against them 2 years ago in West Lafayette. So he's a good back if you give him some room, and he can get some extra yards. So more than anything, Schmidt, I want to see that group that tackles well, which has sort of been a calling card during the Tony White era up until the last couple of weeks. You want to see, three to four guys pursuing to the football. They have done well at getting takeaways. You got to give them credit there. But I want to see those leaky yards disappear. And it's something I was always confident on shows like this saying going into games until like the last week or so. And so now I think they got to, as I said in the first answer, they've got to reestablish that this is who we are. They came into this season wanting to be a top 10 defense and thinking they can be that. And you got to start, showing that tomorrow and getting some stops on 3rd down and not having this be a game where Purdue controls the ball for 35 minutes.
Brian, do you think we need to throw out what we know about this defense based on what we saw last year? Do we need to take just the last 4 games and only evaluate that? Because 8 of 11 guys returned from a starting point of view. It was a lot of the same cast of characters, and that's why I think people had a lot of confidence coming into this season. But at the end of the day, what we saw the last 2 games did not look like what we saw last season. Do you think that last season still holds any relevancy as we evaluate this team, or do you think it needs to be thrown out?
I think I'm fine throwing it out. I think, the first 2 games, they were impressive on that side of the ball, obviously against Colorado. You like what they saw. But when they have been pushed against teams that do have somewhat of a running threat and are going to challenge them with that and will spread the field and then be able to pound it away at them, they have to show they can stand up to that. And, I think Nash has been kind of quiet so far this season, honestly. And so you'd like him to have a good day tomorrow, Ty to kind of pick up where he left off the first 2 games. And then, this is where you want to start seeing Jamari Butler and Princewell and a couple of those guys make a play or two behind the line of scrimmage that completely turns the game. But that's a good question because as you asked it, I was thinking it is kind of that point where whatever happened last year is last year, and I know we like to lean on that sometimes, but this is a new group, and they've got to find their identity right now.
Brian Christopherson with us, Hail Varsity Radio, live here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino. Ameris Sportsbook is where we're posted up, and here till 6, BC and Bruncie. That sounds like a cop movie, a buddy cop movie that I would absolutely check out. Follow Brian on Twitter at Husker247 BC. We've hit
quickly
defense,
here.
We've hit offense, yes.
If Brian and Bruncie is a cop movie, who's got the mustache?
They both do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we both have mustaches. I think Brunson's would grow better.
Well, they both do, and it would be incredible. It would not only just be one, there'd be 3 of these things. There'd be a sequel, and then there'd be the three-peat. So, BC, when we talk about football this weekend, weather could be a factor. Is there a lock for you this weekend, since we're talking where we're talking, what we're talking about? What's your football lock this weekend?
My football lock is that Dylan Raiola is going to throw for at least 3 touchdowns in this game.
Okay.
I do think the ground game's got to be there, but I think when it's time to cash out, I think he's going to produce in the air. Sometimes it's easy to take for granted that we're watching a true freshman, and 4 games in, his completion percentage is only rivaled by what Marcus Mariota did, as a freshman in 2012, when you look at guys who have started this early in their careers. So there's obviously stuff he can improve on, and he's going to go against a defense tomorrow in Purdue that doesn't have any takeaways, but you know how that goes. You can have a drought as far as getting those turnovers, but then all of a sudden you get 3 of them. So Nebraska just has to make sure it's not the day tomorrow, and that Raiola keeps making the decisions he has for the most part. And his receivers have to help him out on a few 50-50 balls that maybe they've let slide the last couple of weeks. So I think he'll have a solid day, and he's the reason why, even though I do think this is going to be a 4-quarter game, I have some level of comfort because I just feel like the quarterback position's in better hands than we've seen it in a while.
So, Brian, before we get you out of here,
I was just going to ask, BC, do you need me to put any heat down on your beloved Vikings?
Yeah, you could do that. You could put us down for a perfect season, first one since the Dolphins. I think that's a real possibility at this point. So if you wanted to put at least $50 on that and see what that does for you, I would say have at it.
I was talking about with Green Bay, the hated Packers.
Oh, you didn't mean like us running the table and winning the Super Bowl? Yeah, okay. I'll tone it down a notch. But
short term.
I like the Vikings this week. I have to move on fully to the Vikings because my Minnesota Twins have just fallen off a ledge and it's over. And congrats to Tigers and Royals fans out there for their soon-to-be playoff clinching evenings that are ahead. So I'm happy for them. I'm not happy for them, but have a nice night.
You could be an A's fan.
Yeah, it's tough. We've had some tough conversations about that. That's for sure.
BC, we appreciate you. Give Bruncie a hug as well, and we'll talk next week. Thanks again.
All right, thanks a lot.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Road Show Friday here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino. Ameris Sports is the sports book and bar you need to hit. Ann is here, and and smiling. And how much you put down on Nebraska? 100,000? Wow. That's impressive.
Bet in the house, literally.
I'm going to be Ann's friend. That's pretty awesome. Big thanks to Brian Christopherson, Bill Doleman with us here in about 20 minutes or so. Clausborne, he's imaginary. He wears red. Friday forecast. We'll have our picks. What is your Husker lock this weekend? We'll take your comments in the stream. Hail Varsity YouTube, like and subscribe. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Also help us pick this perfect Hail Varsity Radio parlay. Are we doing it 5 teams? Do we want 7? Do we want some NFL with college? Or are we just doing college football?
I'm thinking we just stick with college, and I'm thinking because I want it to hit, you go with either 3 or 4. The odds still aren't great. Like, casinos are big because people love parlays, sports books especially. Like, that's where they make all their money. So I don't think we need to jack around with a 5 or a 7-leg parlay. I think we keep it to 3 or 4. Let us know in the stream chat what you think. Give us a game. If we can find a consensus in the stream chat, it will be added to the Hail Varsity Radio parlay of the day.
We will look into that and pull the trigger on it. Quick shout-out. Happy anniversary to the Bunny. 21 years today. We said I do. Just for reference, there was no Nebraska game. I'm not the guy that got married during a Nebraska game. I would have been a guy that scheduled a wedding during a Nebraska game until Bill Burns stepped in and says, yeah, we're not playing San Jose State. Thank you, Dollar Bill, for that. I did nearly miss my wedding pictures out at Wilderness Ridge, though, because Cal was in overtime with USC, and they delivered the only loss in the regular season to Lazy Eye Matt Leinart. So away we go.
I'm just imagining your poor wife sitting there waiting for you to take pictures, and you're at the bar like, wait.
I'm at the bar with the fellas, Hammer and Jack Daniels. Thank you, Joe Papa. And, hang on a minute. This game's in overtime.
It's almost over, I swear.
It's almost over. You know how college overtimes were 21 years ago.
And today is also a day really fast, Schmidt, to say happy birthday to my brother Ben, the big 2-8. The big 2-8.
I wish I was 28 again.
Wait, let me do my math there.
I want to remind you about slot play that's happening September 28th here at Ameristar. $150,000 with Penn Slot. That's a chance for you to get here tomorrow. And tomorrow night, 5 winners from 7 to 9 p.m. will have a chance to score up to $10,000 in Penn Slot Play. Winners also going to get an extra $50 in Penn Slot Play when you have the Penn Play app. And get here by 3 o'clock. Register between 3 and 8:45 to be eligible for this $150,000 in Penn Slot Play giveaway tomorrow with Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino. Grinch is in. We mentioned that in the stream. Coach Brandon Kool-Aid is happy in here. Ronnie says almost game time. Anonymous checks in. It says it seems that someone has a season-ending injury every time NU plays at that wretched dump called Ross-Ade Stadium. I remember that with DPE. That sucked. Uncle Larry is here. Good to have you, Uncle Larry. Tiger Shark is in. It's weird how this show sometimes doesn't pop up on my YouTube feed, and I've got to search for it. Don't know what to tell you, Tiger Shark. I'm sorry, but thanks for searching and finding.
Thanks for going through the extra legwork.
Yep, Drunk Monk is here. Is asking something about singles, and no, can't go there. Colin is here. The Golden Fang is in. Dustin says, my wedding reception took place during the 2000 Orange Bowl versus Tennessee. In our defense, you didn't know which bowl game Nebraska was going to be in. Dustin, you're right, because they were preseason number 1 in 2000. I'm sure when you were planning this thing out, it wasn't going to be the lowly old Fiesta Bowl. Make sure, check that, the 2000 Orange Bowl versus Tennessee, so the 1999 season. They got hosed out of it by Virginia Tech and Florida State. 99 team was for real. Johnny Boy is here, checking the roll call. Got to get back on track Saturday. We'll see. And Sandhill Quest will check in as well. And he's asking about Mazzccua. That's the big thought and news today. No official announcement, but Guy isn't going to be playing tomorrow. That's big. Carl Fence says, my parlay nomination, Nebraska-Purdue, Wisconsin, VSC, Colorado, Central Florida.
He didn't give
Buffs
picks.
are only dogged 14, Elijah.
He didn't give picks here, so I'm not sure which way he's leaning in any one of these games. But I like the games you've picked.
Yeah, I do too.
We have Coach Brandon says Bama +2 at home, Schmidt. I think you're also riding that wave.
Well, I think the Bama fans bought that down to -1, Georgia.
-1 Georgia, okay. +1 Bama, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find the updated line. That's an evening game tomorrow, yeah?
I mean, it's a 7 o'clock kick. I've got it right in front of me. You've got Virginia Tech, Miami tonight, -18, the U, -2. Rutgers here with Penn play at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino.
I am seeing Georgia bought all the way down to just a 1-point favorite.
1-1, yeah. I mean, it's been the George W. Bush administration the last time Saban was, or I should say Bama. Saban's going to be there. He's probably hanging out in his office. But UNLV money line, -125. R Ringer 65 likes that. Tim's like, with you, Schmidt, got to keep the big picture in check. When it comes to guys playing and then maybe departing. I think with the run game in Central Florida, what Coach Barney was saying, I think it's going to be tough for Colorado to stop Central Florida's run. The Storms are going to be passed, so I don't know that weather's going to be a factor. Pretty brutal. Terry is in. What is he asking about?
Huh?
The O-line. Yes.
Where is this at?
I would say the O-line is unacceptable now, let alone next year. Has been for quite some time. It's okay, but nowhere top of the pack. I think you're
deep in the stream chat here. I can't even find that.
No, you're fine. Yeah. Terry, I think the O-line's a work in progress, but I think you've got experience, Elijah, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't always mean excellence. But you've got some younger folks now intertwined with some of those older guys. Well, can it work?
And we're running out of time here. I wish you had a little bit more time on this. Maybe we'll have to carry it over. What does Nebraska need from its offensive line this year, I think, is a question that we need to ask. Because Nebraska, what it needs is not the number one offensive line in the Big Ten. And if that's what you were expecting coming into this year, you were way far off with your expectations. Nebraska needs a middle-of-the-road Big Ten offensive line. We're talking somewhere between 5 and 8. If you can be there at the end of the year, you've done well for yourself. Can Nebraska still reach that without Mazzccua? That's kind of the question.
No, I don't think so. We'll wind down this first hour here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino. Hail Varsity continues on. We're powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back here this first hour, winding down. We're here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino, right outside the Ameris Sportsbook. A lot of Husker fans have rolled in. I haven't seen any Purdue love, which is all right. Council Bluffs, Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino, where we're at, the mother of all parlays. We are going to pick that, the Hail Varsity Parlay. We're here Road Fridays through much of this football season. We'll be back for the Indiana game, which is great. We got to shout out our bud and now voice of Oral Roberts. How about them Golden Eagles landing and signing one Connor Clark? Wow. How about that, man? Good for Connor.
Yeah, where was your first full-time non-seasonal broadcasting job?
Dakota State.
Dakota State. How would you
Dakota State.
And this is not
South Dakota State. It's Dakota State in the wonderful town of Madison, 45 minutes north of Sioux Falls.
That was my next question. Madison, how would you compare that to Tulsa, Oklahoma? That's what Connor's off to.
You can't compare it. Now,
so much better.
The steak and baked potato combo at the little bar in Madison, South Dakota was incredible. And I traveled with the team Thursday through Sunday. It was wonderful. Now, all these programs have jumped to like Division II. When I had them, they were NAIA level. So I didn't quite get the Kalen DeBoer experience, but I was close to him. I was just up the road.
That's not too bad, huh?
No, it was a good time, man. Well, I worked for the late, great Jim Hockett. He's beautiful.
While we're on this topic, though, a big congratulations in all seriousness, Connor Clark. That's awesome. Excited to follow his work. I know the Hail Varsity Hail Varsity Radio listeners have enjoyed listening to him through the past, we talking 3 years now. So
yeah.
If you want to keep on following Connor, Oral Roberts Athletics is where you go. The new voice of the Golden Eagles, Connor Clark. Hat tip to you, Connor.
Dude, he's going to be doing NCAA tournament games and, dare I say, maybe a CWS game at some point. How about it? Get them in Tulsa. Tulsa's a good spot.
Yeah, it is. That's what I was saying. Like, man, of all the places to get your first full-time permanent broadcasting gig, Tulsa, Oklahoma, you landed in a good spot. That's not too bad for Connor.
He is, to give Connor more cred, you've heard him. He doesn't need it from us. But the dude was like a Jim Nance Student Award winner or something along those lines.
All-American.
Yes, thank you. A Jim Nance, hello friends, award winner. So it was good, man. It was good to have him.
That's what they should call the award, actually, the Hello Friends Award. That'd be awesome.
Pretty good. We're gearing up here for that Hail Varsity Radio parlay. We're going to fire up at Ameris Sportsbook. Ameristar Council Bluffs Casinos, where we're at. Want to remind you to buckle up when you're making your way here. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives, prevents injuries only if properly worn. Make it click. A message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Reminder, weekend edition of Hail Varsity for you on Hail Varsity YouTube. Like and subscribe. We'll get going around 7:45 tomorrow. Without further ado, Elijah, are you giving away some Dane Cook right now?
Yeah, call in 402-489-1240. A pair of Dane Cook tickets on the line at the Steelhouse in Omaha on Sunday evening.
Caller what?
We got a pair to give away, and we're going to go with caller number 6.
Okay, caller 6, Dane Cook, Steelhouse, Omaha on Sunday. Hour 2 coming up with Hail Varsity.
He's the pride of Fairbury, an average Joe. Bill Doleman, the professor.
I had a 6 ACT in 1967. One time I got an A and my grandma beat me for cheating.
Now with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, Tower 2. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. We're here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino, just outside Ameris Sports, getting together with that Hail Varsity Monster Parlay. We want your football lock of the weekend in the stream. Can log on Hail Varsity YouTube, like and subscribe to watch the show. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter, the pride of Fairbury. With us, Bill Doleman, at Bill Doleman on Twitter. The professor is with us. Billy D, how we doing? Do we need to make some picks at the window for you, Big Cat, this weekend?
Pick me out a winner, Bobby.
That's right. Pick me out an O lineman, Bobby. We'll get to the Mazzccua thoughts in a moment. Tyler, we got to shout out Tyler. Tyler got the Dane Cook tickets for Sunday at the Steelhouse in Omaha. And thank you, Tyler, for listening. Enjoy the show, man. It should be all right. Bill, we don't want any comedy tomorrow if you're a Nebraska fan, though, as it is Purdue. It is -10 Big Red. They are bazooka-less tomorrow, it sounds like.
It sounds like forever, too. I don't know what the full story is on it, but the big gun apparently not a go or went the wrong way. Who knows what's going on with that situation? But this, I think, is really I can't think of a more drama for Matt Rule in his first year and a half as Nebraska's head coach than what they've had to deal with one of their better players. It's not a glamour position, but let's face it, what Mazzccua was doing along the offensive line was, significant. And he could play both left and right guard and had probably the attitude that you want in an offensive lineman. So that's going to change things. But now you know, right? At least you know now that this is, I shouldn't say probably there's nothing definite, but from what I understand, but at least you know where you are going into this week. You don't have to worry about him being on the sidelines. Next player up. And if Nebraska has been bringing in solid young offensive linemen over the last couple of years, Gatula, Sledge, Bricks, whomever, now's your chance, and we've already got Gatula out there at the left side at tackle. Who's next? And those veterans that are along the offensive line have got to provide some immediate leadership and say, look, I'm going to help you out all I can while we're out here. And the same has to be done. Donnie Raiola, they love him as an offensive line coach, not because he's the most famous uncle in Nebraska. We're going to see how well he develops offensive linemen. And then he's also going to be Uncle Donnie and say, guy behind you, okay? Bottom line here. So, this is a key game, and I guess if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now in a game at Purdue where you're favored. I think that's high given what the weather might be there. So it might be more competitive, and you don't want it to be a comedy of errors because you can't hold on to the ball in the rain.
It's Bill Doleman with us here, Hail Varsity Radio, talking Nebraska and Purdue. And Bill, one of the things that we talked about on the Average Joe show, which dropped yesterday, encourage people to check that out once you get done listening to this episode of Hail Varsity Radio, obviously, is offensive balance. Is that something Nebraska can achieve in 2024 in your eyes, especially now with today's news that your best offensive lineman won't be playing this weekend, and as you read the tea leaves, seems doubtful that he'll be playing again this season?
Well, I think what does this news do for your ground game? And I know Nebraska wants to be balanced, and what I talked about on the Average Joe Sports Show was it's one thing to, throw 30, run 30, right? But if your passing game is providing you plays that are stretching the field 15 to 25 yards, maybe every fifth pass completion, okay, you've got that threat of a long ball, and maybe you have the threat of the deep ball once or twice a game where you're going to pick up 30 to 50 yards. We know that's possible in Nebraska's air game, okay? But the running game, and I've said this for several weeks now, we don't consistent 8 to 15 yard gains every 5 carries. They're getting 30 pass attempts and 30 rushing attempts, but most of the rushing attempts we see are of that 5-yard variety. Nebraska setting up second down and 9 or second down and 8, that has to come a little bit from the ground game. It's not Raiola. It can't be Raiola all the time on 1st and 10 completing a pass for 8 or 9 yards. You need to see big yards, guys through the hole, moving the chains perhaps in the rushing game. So I'd like to see, the big plays in the passing game, but double-digit runs, 5 and 30. I'm talking 10 to 15 yards every 5th carry or so that moves the chains on their own and gives Nebraska a threat of the run so that you have a balanced threat of double-digit yards and moving the chains in both the run game and the pass game. That's what I want to see in terms of balance.
Bill Doleman's with us, Hail Varsity Roadshow here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino. Outside the Ameris Sports Book, here the nachos are on fire. The wings are incredible, and the picks are in. We have folks all over Central Florida. They love that over the Buffs. You're getting Bama in points for the first time since the Bush administration, Billy D. And, you've got Rutgers Soprano Ball tonight as they host UW. We'll get to Nebraska-Purdue and that -10 in a little bit. But, Bill, I want to get your thought here with just this process, not to belabor the Mazzccua stuff, but you've got a guy that has history that's been talked about by Matt Rule, going back to their connection early in Mazzccua's teen years, right? A guy that's from Philly, Rule's from Philly, the Temple time, of course, and just growing up there. So it was to me, I have to believe a pretty high understanding that whole risk-reward thing when you bring him in. You've got a guy that was at Baylor and then left Baylor to play at Florida, was really good at Florida, but there's still that image that most of us remember from a year ago where there's all sorts of crazy on the field at Neyland Stadium where one Florida offensive lineman's wanting to go to town on the entire Tennessee defensive line and maybe some of the south end zone. Not sure. You get him into Lincoln and you set the parameters. You've stuck pretty firm with those, and when things weren't being met, you didn't make exceptions. You didn't bend. Because the real easy answer right now is to push that button and say, go play right guard, dude. Go play left tackle, dude. Go murder somebody on Saturday afternoon in a football way and just roll with it because he makes your team better. But that probably isn't always great for the clubhouse, the locker room. So if things are done, I admire Nebraska moving on.
You know, it's interesting that there is a prior relationship, and that's why he ended up at Nebraska. And by all accounts, his brother is still here in the running back room. So this is an individual thing wherever he is emotionally with playing football at Nebraska or playing football in general. I think there was the element of, you know what you're going to get. And we think that, we've got an opportunity for him to play in an environment to come here and grow. And for whatever reason, it's not working out. And if we've seen the last of Micah Mazzccua in a Nebraska uniform, so be it. Time to move on. I mean, Matt, this is, a family, and it's next man up. Well, time for next man to be up. And you hope that the next person has been conditioned and trained and coached up to where he can be more than serviceable at this stage. It's one thing to have somebody come in fill in the third or fourth quarter of a game, but now you've got 2/3 of the season left to go, and they got to grow up quick. And maybe this is that opportunity. Maybe somebody's just been waiting for that opportunity to be the guy. But look, Matt Rule gave him an opportunity. It's not working out. And at some point, you will have players in that locker room watching him and saying, are we your guys, or is he your guy? Mm-hmm. And I think eventually Matt Rule has to say, I'm with the ones who are still here. We tried it. It's not going to work out. I believe, from what I've heard, Matt Rule will say, I will do whatever I can to help you out wherever it is that you want to go. But maybe it's just time to move on. I can't believe that he could come back at this point. Yep. Right? Unless it's several games down the road and say, these are the hoops you got to jump through, and this is what you got to do, and get right with your guys. And it's not me who's going to make that decision. Maybe it's going to be up to the other guys in that old line room who are going to make the determination. And I think that's where you give the team ownership to say, I'm not going to, coaches, we don't have to see what the coach is going to do. Coach is letting us make that decision. And if the players say, we're cool with it, we're the ones who are going to set the parameters. We've got a unity council. And if they're the ones who say no, then you gotta respect that, I think.
And I don't know, I'm kind of just with you, Bill, in that I find it hard to believe that teammates and coaches are going to be fine with a guy who, I'm prepared to say it, is suspended, taking a vacation off to the West Coast in the middle of the season while the team is off to West Lafayette to go play a football game. That, from an outside point of view, doesn't sit right with me, and I'm sure it doesn't sit right inside that building either. If a guy is going off and abandoning the team, taking a vacation halfway through the season because, you're not traveling this week, you can't play, you're suspended, I don't think that's going to fly with anybody. And that's why I'm preparing myself to never see Micah Mazzccua in a Husker uniform again. I just don't think you can come back from that.
Right, and I don't think this is a Pontius Pilate thing where I'm washing my hands of this and you all decide. I think this is a deal where Matt Rule does have to listen to the chemistry of the team and what those guys are saying. And they may want to say, look, it's fine with us. I don't think that's the case. We believe in what we can do. We believe in the other guys in the room. It's time for all of us to move on. And I think, Matt Rule will respect what the players' input. And at this stage, we can't be talking about Nebraska. This after the Illinois loss, we cannot be talking about this this has been going on since post Colorado, right? Or post UNI. right?
OCU.
So yeah. So now we're into week 2 of this drama. We can't be having that anymore.
Well, that's game 2. This is game 4, right? And
it cost you, and it cost you last week.
Game 5, excuse me. You're at 3-1 right now. You're at 3-1 right now. Let me do that high-level math. I was, retaking at Nebraska back in the day, and get that number right. But yeah, we'll see how things shake out.
But don't you think that his absence through the week and his presence on the sidelines and the unknowing had to have had some impact on how that game played out on Saturday? Is he or is he not? Is he going to get in or not? And he didn't get in, and Nebraska's ground game was not what it should have been last week.
And that's kind of one of the things I said, and I didn't phrase it the best whenever I said it on the air, but essentially if you have Micah Mazzccua on your sideline, if he is not suspended, that's a guy that you bring in on 3rd and 3 with the game on the line and go run behind. Either he's suspended or he's not. And if he's on the sideline, if he's available, he's not suspended. It was weird to not see him at all in the Illinois game if discipline still wasn't.
You saw him on
there.
special teams, but you didn't see him, on
where
1st and 10.
Where he needed to be, yes.
Well, there's criteria you got to meet. You met some criteria, it sounds like, to be able to be on the sideline and do some special team stuff, but you didn't meet the criteria, or you're still in the doghouse for whatever went down to go win the starting job back.
Right. So this drama has to end.
Drama filled tomorrow or not? Got about 2 minutes, Billy D. Nebraska's favored by 10. I love your predictions and projections here. What's your lock of the weekend with Nebraska-Purdue, and what is going to happen in West Lafayette tomorrow?
Well, instead of Trey Palmer running wild, I think there could be a couple of players running wild. I think, it could be a mutter, right? Because of the whatever effects of the hurricane are going to be in Indiana. They're talking about 60% chance of heavy rains there. Now, that means it could certainly be nice, and it's just a little damp. But I think Nebraska is going to put it in the air tomorrow. I know that Purdue can't stop the run, but I'm not convinced right now that Nebraska has a ton of confidence in the ground. They may try early on, and we're just going to pound it and see what everybody in that running back room can do. But I have a feeling that Raiola might put it in the air a bunch. I think it's going to be much closer than people think, and I look for Nebraska, to put up north of 60, and probably, Purdue at home, they're going to put some points, 65-5, something like that, something close.
So the dreaded safety happens. You say 65-5 and the overs, Bill.
Yeah, I see that. I just think it's going to be close because of the weather. That's why. But I think they're going to put the wet ball in Raiola's hands, and I think you're going to see Nair and Banks and Lloyd and Fedoni. I think that I bet they put the ball in the air north of 35 times tomorrow.
Okay.
I know that's counterintuitive against that Purdue defense, but I like letting Raiola see if he can't go out and win one on his own.
Whatever works. Billy D will check in tomorrow. All right. Appreciate you. Thanks for hopping in.
I'm dead on with that. Come on.
It's Bill Doleman, Pride of Fairbury, the professor.
Bye.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We're here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino. Roadshow Friday. We're here on the road weekends. We'll be here Fridays, except for Ohio State, when Elijah and I are finding our way to Columbus. But, pretty awesome here to be just outside the Ameris Sportsbook. Nachos, wings, cold beer, drinks, even some Rumplemints. Joe Mama, my beloved mother, tweets at me, or I should say texts, and said, has Bill been drinking?
Why?
Well, Bill's projections are always
the score
over
is
the top.
The score is out there. I think what he predicted was 9 touchdowns for Nebraska. One of those, the extra point, was blocked in return for a score for Purdue. That's how they get their 2, along with the field goal. But Nebraska goes for 2 to get to 63 points. That's how I was reading into it. You went for the safety. I went for the blocked extra point return for a touchdown.
Well, and why do you go for 2 against certain teams? Because you couldn't go for 3.
Well,
right?
But
why'd you go for 2 there, Coach? Because I couldn't go for 3.
Yeah,
couldn't go for 4.
And the score prediction out there from Bill is a little bit wild, but I actually agree with him whenever he says...
Wild Bill.
Well, I think he could be onto something with Nebraska's throwing the football around the yard a little bit tomorrow.
Listen, we gotta talk about that. And I don't wear the red Nebraska hat anymore, dude. I've been doing this long enough that it's what's going to be interesting and fun to talk about is what I kind of root for. From a cheering standpoint, it'd be a lot cooler, as Matthew McConaughey used to say, a lot cooler if you did. Be a lot cooler if Nebraska found a way to go in on the road, because people are going to start wondering in traffic because they've seen this movie before where you can't trust Nebraska and it ruins your weekend, and then your interest level wanders. Brian says it best here, and I'm really, most of the time, don't care about style points, but Brian says run the damn ball. If you're taking on a team that's in the hundreds, stopping the run, you need to go run the football tomorrow.
Well, tell me if you're real fast.
And I'm not saying don't use the amazingness of Dylan Raiola, but run the ball. Try and run the ball. Make them stop you from doing it so they don't line up and let Maccabee go for a sequel of 200 yards against you.
What I'll say here, though, is Nebraska went up against a team earlier this year that the strength of their team is not stopping the run. You know what I'm talking about? Colorado.
Right.
Nebraska ran the ball with success that game. Dylan Raiola still had 30 passing attempts.
It's fine.
Once you're 4 games into the season, Nebraska has shown us what they are going to be offensively.
35 passing attempts, 25 rushing attempts.
I'll say somewhere in there.
Give or take.
Somewhere in the, you're expecting north of both 25 rushes and 25 passes, but probably south of 40 for each as well. There's going to be between, I would venture to say, 25 and 35 passing attempts tomorrow, and there's going to be between 25 and 35 rushing attempts tomorrow. That's how Nebraska plays football. That's how they do things offensively this season. I've seen enough to know that is their game plan offensively. And yes, Purdue stopping the run has not been great this season. But you have a guy in Dylan Raiola that this offensive staff is extremely confident in, and I think they have the best chance to win no matter what the defense presents by putting the ball into the air. I don't think Nebraska's a pass-first team tomorrow, don't get me wrong, but they're still going to air the ball out. Don't expect 50 rushing attempts and 8 passing attempts from Dylan Raiola. That's not how they're going to operate. What Dylan Raiola is a 5-star, extremely talented quarterback that's already one of the best in the country. You're going to ride that. That's how you go win football games. If you think Nebraska is just going to hand the ball off 3 times and punt it away, or hand the ball off 3 times to pick up a first down, that's how they're going to play offense tomorrow because there's a little rain in the forecast. That's not who they are.
Don't be scared about throwing in weather. I agree with you there. And as you assess things, what gives you the best chance to win? And if Nebraska says we got to throw it 25, 30, 35 times in these weather conditions because this is what we honestly think about our offensive line, so be it. But make them stop you running the ball. If it's working, stay with it. Because I think that's negligent to not go in and saying, as much as Rule talked this week about needing to run the football, getting Emmett Johnson going. I mean, they ran it last year because they had to. That's what they did best with the quarterback. I understand that in a pro-style offense with this quarterback, with these weapons, it is stupid not to use them. I get it. But in tomorrow's situation, bad rush defense, keeping an opposing rushing offense that's pretty good, or maybe ready to carve a wounded front 7 up, that just makes too much sense to burn clock, body blow, get downhill, and sucked the air out of a air quote sold out stadium in what could be inclement weather.
You want to be
Doesn't it sound idiotic to throw the football in a rainy storm when you can try and run the ball?
I think you have to play that by ear with the weather, but what have we heard plenty of times from Matt Rule in the offseason? The toxic differential of the offense. I'm not sure he used those words exactly. That's what it's called. Essentially the balance of your ability to have explosive plays when compared to your turnover differential. Nebraska wants to be explosive offensively. Matt Rule has said that enough times for me to fully believe it, and that's what we've seen through the early part of the season.
You know what screams turnover to me? Third and 2, when you can run it, you're dropping back, and ups your left or right tackle slips in slick conditions or just gets beat by Jenkins, and here comes a strip sack. Here's momentum shifting. Here's a turnover, or worse, an injury.
Okay.
And you come back 0-2 from league play.
Okay, but on the flip side of that, how many explosive rushing plays does Nebraska have this year? Off the top of your head, how many can you think of?
Are you counting runs of 12 or more?
I put it at about 15, but if you say 12, sure.
I
don't have the number in front of me.
4?
Somewhere in there.
4.
One per game, greater than 15 yards.
They've had one per game.
That's not good.
It's not good.
You don't win football games by pounding the rock whenever you're only picking up 3 to 4 yards per. You're gonna
win football games keeping their ass on the sideline if you can't stop their run game.
It's not how Matt Rule has said it enough times that he wants to be explosive offensively, and Nebraska has shown they can't be explosive on the ground for me to think there is going to be opportunities for Dylan Riley to push the ball downfield tomorrow. And it's easier if you have a rushing attack, but Nebraska wants to be an explosive offense.
But guess what? You want to hit some shots downfield. You can do it off play action. You can do it out of the pistol. But what type of impact does a fake handoff have if you're not running the football or not trying to run the football?
To me, it's a question of what do you want to do versus what can you do. Sure, I think the game plan tomorrow in an ideal world.
They want to throw it. No, can they run it?
Well, what they want to do, I think, is be a team that can pound the rock. But what can you do to be explosive is throw the football. That's where I'm at right now. I think Matt Rule wants to have an offense that can run the ball with success 40 times a game and take the pressure off of Dylan Raiola. But what can you do offensively? I don't think they're good enough as an offensive line and as a rushing attack to be able to say, hey, we're going to run this ball 45 times a la Michigan against USC. Now try and stop it. They're not at that point right now.
Well, they can't be one. You've got to keep running the football. Whether you like it, it makes you pull your hair out. If you're not good at it, you got to stick with it for the sake of balance and wearing somebody down. And you don't want to be one-dimensional. So if it is chuck and duck time, they're going to blitz you. It's going to look like overtime, and it could be a nightmare. Vegas, our friends in the desert, our friends here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino at Amerisports, the number we have is -10. That's what Nebraska's favorite. Look, if they throw it and it's a Trey Palmer tribute by somebody, or at least passing yards wise by Dylan, and they win by double digits, all good. But I just think at some point, man, like maybe next Saturday, you're going to need to work on running the football, get better at running the football, and do so in-game action on a Saturday, because I just don't know what you know or what you are Monday through Thursday running the football.
My worry is that, especially with Mazzccua gone, that is a goal for next season as opposed to something you can do during Big Ten play this year. That's my concern.
You have the ability to either play catch-up or abandon the run because of what you have at quarterback and your skill guys. But it doesn't mean you just go into it not willing to give it a run.
Sure. Before we get out of here, Schmidt, this segment, because I know we're going to be up against it with the Friday forecast, should we put in our locks?
Let's put in our locks. All right, are we gonna put this Hail Varsity Radio parlay down?
Yeah, I'll Venmo you, or I'll give you some cash if you want to go 50s on it with me.
We're each putting in 50?
That's just 50%. I'm not sure what we want the total amount to be, but
let's put a G down, man.
Jesus Christ.
It's Mama's anniversary today. I'll just...
Well, I was thinking maybe $20 each. $20 each, a $40 four-leg parlay should have a decent little payout for us.
Four-leg parlay. Are we going Rutgers?
I think that's the one that we're going to both agree on, that we're both going to take Rutgers at -1.5 as it stands right now, and then we each get a pick, and we'll see what Clausborne thinks after the break as well.
Okay.
So
Rutgers
is the one that we agree upon.
Okay.
What's the game that you're liking?
I like Kentucky covering at Ole Miss.
Okay, I'll give you that one. Because mine is I'm going to take – I've been going back and forth on this one. I think I'm going to take Georgia -1.
You're taking Georgia -1.
Yeah.
Do you like Oklahoma State money line?
For a fun factor, no.
I kind of like UCF only laying 14.
I'm sticking with Georgia -1.
We'll have our forecast picks here coming up shortly. I like Auburn. I'm all over Auburn.
I hate Auburn.
With all of the injuries and guys not playing for Oklahoma. They just got waxed by Tennessee last week. That is my lock. Auburn -1 over Oklahoma.
See, people hated my Michigan pick last week, and people hate my Georgia pick right now, but this is one I feel really, really good about. With the way that line is shifted, I'm getting the value at Georgia -1.
Are you praying for a meteorite with Notre Dame and Louisville?
Yes.
Okay.
We could look at Indiana's also -7 against Maryland. I'm not bought into the Indiana stock enough to take them at -7, so that's why I'm staying away from that one. I really do like Georgia -1.
I don't know, man. We'll see what it is. We'll get to Clausborne in the Friday forecast. Hail Varsity on the road as we are here at Ameristar, Council Bluffs Casino. Ameris Sports is where we're lined up outside. Your sports book, of course. NFL action going on. NFL action aplenty. And he is imaginary. He wears red. It is Clausborne on the way. Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Roadshow today. We are at Ameris Sports Sportsbook, Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. And pretty excited, man, because we're going to get that Hail Varsity lock in, that 4-team parlay, that uncut gems moment where Adam Sandler fist pumps when KG wins the toss, wins the jump ball, and then it's all downhill from there. See the movie. I know it's older now, but tough ending. Tough ending, and it wasn't the bet. Without further ado, let us bring him in. He's imaginary. He wears red. It is Clausborne with us here on the Friday forecast. Claus, how we doing? Thanks for joining us today.
Well, I'm doing all right. First of all, a lot of people don't know that Elijah was actually Josh Safdie's muse in Uncut Gems.
Oh, no.
You said it all right.
That one was off the cuff. I didn't have time to write that. I've been so busy cleaning out the basement after Carl stayed over last weekend. The amount of baby oil we hauled out of here would have made Sean Combs wince.
So if we're scoring at home, that is the first baby oil and puffy reference in the forecast.
Hey, for all we know, Carl just
maybe
likes
not
Costco.
The last.
For all we know, Carl just likes Costco. Did you guys see that?
Don't we all?
Did you guys see that? That was P. Diddy's lawyer's response.
No, I saw the footage. Yes.
HOTDOGS, $1.50. Oh, I'm sorry. Involuntary when a Costco reference is made.
Claus is on one today. Let us get into the forecast, get our picks going, and Claus will maybe have a final say in what we do for the Hail Varsity 4-team parlay. Oklahoma State at Kansas State, -5 Wildcats. They were roughed up score-wise by BYU. Statistically, it was closer than the score. Oklahoma State, a tough one, a tight one at home as the Utes says Joe Pesci won by 3, 22-19. You know what? I just got to go with Kansas State at home. I think 5's too many. This thing's tight. But I like the Wildcats to win but not cover. Give me 35-31. Kansas State over Oklahoma State. Elijah.
Yeah, I think this one's tight throughout, but I think Kansas State seals it with a late touchdown. I think that's what wins it for them. And Oklahoma State's offense, not explosive enough to drive down the field and get a win. Kansas State 27, Oklahoma State 20, a win and cover for the Wildcats.
All right, we go to Clausborne. Claus, what say you with Kansas State, Oklahoma State -5 Wildcats?
Well, last week was obviously a tough game for Kansas State, but I still really do like Chris Kleiman as a head coach. I think their athletic department was really thinking outside the bun with that one. And I know everyone down in Aggieville, Quiero's a victory, but in this quesadilla, I think Oklahoma State is actually the much better team. I like the way their defense crunch, wraps, and drives. And I know a lot of people talk about the way that their uniforms make them look like a packet of hot sauce, but I think this weekend they're going to be fire. They'll get the victory, and the folks down in Stillwater will be having a Baja blast. Oklahoma State 31 and Kansas State 24.
Apparently Claus is running for the border with the NIL opportunities. To
we gotta
Waco.
live Moss.
We got to go to Waco here. Baylor -3. BYU on the road. They're ranked. They're unbeaten. And I like BYU to keep on trucking here. 27-21. They escape Waco. BYU at 5-0 and the cover. Claus, we'll get to you in a minute. Elijah, what say you here about the Bears or the Cougars?
Yeah, I don't want to steal Claus's thunder, so I'll set him up instead and just say BYU, they've been hot to start the season. They have a chance to be on fire whenever they leave Waco. Give me BYU to win this one outright, 24-17.
Okay, so a touchdown win for BYU. Claus, where you going here? Baylor or BYU?
Well, Elijah is right. BYU's football team is hot, even if their drinks can't be. And a lot of people think it's a misconception that the Mormons can't have caffeine. Actually, what it is they can't have hot drinks like coffee or tea, which of course do include caffeine, but it's really the hot drink aspect that the prophet felt like they shouldn't get involved with. And it really boils down to the fact that Mormons are kind of clumsy, and they often spill their beverages on themselves. And as we all know, the folks at BYU don't want you to get all hot while you're soaking. So in this game, I think BYU defeats Baylor 24 and Baylor 21.
Moving forward, we have the Illini at Penn State. The Fighting James Franklin's -18.5. Man, I just think too much talent for Penn State. I think Illinois fights hard, but not hard enough. Give me the Nittany Lions 28-20. A win but no cover for Penn State. Illinois, though, gives her hell. What do you say, Elijah?
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I think my score prediction coming into this was 24-21. Penn State, a hard-fought game. I think Illinois possesses the ball well. Let's have some fun here, why don't we? It means a lot more for Nebraska if Illinois goes in there and outright gets a win. That'd be a lot more fun. Let's have some fun this weekend. Give me the Illini 28 and Penn State 24. Outright victory for Illinois.
Look at you, going with the Fighting Birds.
That's my heart, not my head, so let's
no, that's fine. Claus, what say you, Penn State or the Illini -18.5 Penn State?
Well, I agree with you, fellas. I think this line is entirely too big. I don't think Vegas or really a lot of college football fans are ready to acknowledge that Bert, I don't suffer from Bielema, has built a pretty good team in spite of the amount of time that he's had to convince Coleman and Trails End to loan Nike enough fabric to make his sideline jacket. Speaking of which, I didn't even realize that Penn State was a Nike school. I figured their apparel contract would be with Oshkosh Bagosh.
Oh, my
But no matter what
God.
they're wearing, whether they're in Nike or Gar Animals, I think Penn State wins this one 28 and Illinois 18.
On we go. Bama, Georgia.
Gotta be quick here.
Should we just hang on a second? Can we squeeze Bama, Georgia, Nebraska, Purdue in on the other side?
I suppose that'll be fine. We got to pay the lights, Bill.
All right, there he is. Claus will hang tight. You hang on as we're on the road today. Hail Varsity at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino. Roadshow Fridays here. Nebraska's on the road. We ask you to get across the river. Come find us here 4 to 6 as Ameris Sportsbook, the spot to be. Nebraska-Purdue prediction, SC, not part of this discussion, but Bama and Georgia, what happens? Clausborne continues.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Hail, Ann got her parlay nailed down. It's incredible. Let me read that real quick. All right, Ann says, money line, Vegas, Raiders. She's taking Illinois in the points. She's taking the Cougars, Houston Cougars, and the points. And she's taking the over with Minnesota, Michigan, 34.5. I think that's fantastic. You're weighing your opinion here, Elijah, on probably the Houston pick.
The over, actually, in Michigan, Minnesota. That could be a 10-7 ball game.
Could be a 10-7 ball game, possibly.
But I don't know. I do like our good friend Jeff Snitley here in this stream.
Yes.
Over 52 on Indiana versus Maryland. I think that might be our pick from the stream chat for today's Hail Varsity Radio Parlay of the Day.
I like it. Claus, let's get going and dive in. As Clausborne's with us, the Friday forecast with Hail Varsity. We're here at Ameristar Council Bluffs Casino. And we get back to our picks.
Let's off at Georgia-Bama.
Georgia-Bama. The Bama Roll Tide Nation's about that line down to 1. Give me Bama. Give me Bama and the points. Give me Bama 37-31. And I like overs in that one as well, Elijah.
Yeah, I like the idea of lots of points. I am with you on that one, but I have it going the other way. I have Georgia pulling this one out late. They're a team that doesn't always care until it really matters. This is a game that really matters. A big first real SEC test for Kalen DeBoer. I think too many things point in the way of Georgia for me, even though I think Bama may be the better team. Give me Georgia to win this one 35-31. I like a lot of points, though.
Claus, what do you say here, Bama or Georgia?
Real quick, did you say Ann was taking the Cougars this weekend?
Yes.
Sounds like you in college, but anyway, back to this game. I think it's going to be a very entertaining one, much like a NASCAR race, action-packed and a lot of speed. And for that reason, I'm taking Georgia. Now, I know the famous track in Alabama is Talladega, which, of course, was dominated by your favorite driver, Christopher Dale Earnhardt Sr., and they can get up to 212 miles an hour there. But I think they go a little bit faster on the city streets around the bars in Athens. So I'll take Georgia 24 and Alabama 21.
Rapid fire, give me Nebraska to win. Purdue to cover 31-24, Nebraska, Elijah.
Yeah, I got Nebraska to win this one and cover just barely 28-17. The Huskers get it done, but they get a better performance from their defense.
Claus, the floor is yours. Nebraska, Purdue -10, Big Red.
Well, I just realized this game was in West Lafayette, and not in Lincoln. I guess you can get a beer at the stadium next year, but it'll be a few more before you'll see a Boilermaker. And speaking of stadium beverages, I know that West Lafayette has been a house of horrors for teams that wear scarlet and are feeling pretty good about themselves, but I just can't take a team seriously when their stadium's name sounds like a homebrew off-brand sports drink. So I'm going to take Nebraska in this one 35 and Purdue 20.
Huskers by 15, says Claus. 35-20. Well, I hope you're right, Claus. Claus, you behave yourself. We'll check in with you next week.
Okay.
There he goes. Clausborne, Imaginarian wears red. Thank you, Ameristar, Council Bluffs Casino, Amerisports. Back tomorrow for the weekend edition at 7:45. Thanks.
And we'll get that parlay posted on Twitter.